Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into something pretty important today. The Social Security Fairness Act.
Huge.
It's been making waves, and we're going to break down why it matters, especially to anyone who's benefited from public service, right?
Yeah.
Think teachers, firefighters, police officers.
Absolutely.
So to really get into this, we've got excerpts from the actual act itself.
Okay.
So why don't we start with, what's the big problem this act is trying to solve?
So for years, there's been this issue with how Social Security benefits work for public sector workers, folks who dedicated their careers to public service, right? And it boils down to these two things: the windfall elimination provision, or WEP, and the government pension offset, the GPO.
Right, and those are pretty complicated.
They are, but essentially what was happening is these provisions ended up penalizing public workers when it came to collecting their full Social Security benefits.
So they weren't getting what they deserve.
Exactly. And it wasn't just like a theoretical thing. This had real consequences.
Right. I mean, how so?
Well, there's this case that really highlights it. This retired firefighter, Terry Hoover.
Yeah.
This guy dedicated his life to keeping people safe, right? And because of these provisions, the WEP and GPO, his benefits got slashed, like over $1,000 less every month.
Wow.
Imagine that after working so hard your entire life.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt.
Exactly, and it really underscores why this new act, the Social Security Fairness Act, is so important.
So what's this act actually do then?
Okay, so the core of it is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It aims to get rid of those penalties, the WEP and the GPO, so public sector workers can actually get their full benefits.
Makes sense.
And the really interesting thing is this act actually saw a ton of support from both sides of the aisle. I mean, the Senate vote was 85-11.
Wow.
That's pretty rare these days.
Yeah, you don't see that very often.
Right. So it shows how significant this issue really is.
Well, hold on. I mean, we're talking about government spending here, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there a concern about how this affects the deficit?
Yeah, that's definitely a valid point, and projections do show it could add a sizable chunk to the deficit, something like $195 billion over the next decade.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
It is, and it raises some important questions about the long-term impact, right? But think about it this way. It's kind of ironic that public servants are penalized for having a pension while people in other professions aren't.
Right. It doesn't seem very fair, does it?
It's a complex issue for sure, and a lot of it boils down to how Social Security benefits are calculated.
That's interesting.
Yeah. See, many public sector workers haven't been paying into Social Security their entire career, so their benefits get calculated differently.
So this new act, while it's trying to fix a problem, it could also bring up some new challenges down the line.
It could, and that's why it's crucial to really understand how this interacts with individual retirement planning.
Yeah.
And, the overall solvency of the Social Security system. This is where talking to someone like John White at Financial Guideposts can be invaluable.
Okay, so you're saying people should reach out to John White about this?
Absolutely. Because he's an expert at navigating these kinds of changes, he really helps people make informed decisions about their retirement plans.
And remind us again, who is John White?
So John White, he's the president of Financial Guideposts, and he's a guru when it comes to this stuff,
Okay, so he can break down how this act specifically affects people.
Exactly. And that's so important because it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Right. It's complicated.
And that's where John White's expertise comes in. He can tailor his advice to each individual circumstances.
Okay, so it sounds like he's the guy to talk to if you're feeling lost about all this.
Definitely, especially if you're a public sector worker or retiree trying to figure out what it means for your benefits.
Okay, so to kind of sum things up, it sounds like this act, the Social Security Fairness Act, is meant to fix an unfair system so public servants can get the benefits they were promised, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it also brings up these bigger questions about how we ensure Social Security is sustainable for everyone in the long run.
Right, so it's not just about this one law.
It's about the whole system.
Okay.
And thinking about solutions that work for everyone.
So what should people do now? What's the takeaway here?
Well, if this act has you thinking about your own retirement planning, which it probably should,
Yeah.
I highly recommend reaching out to John White at Financial Guideposts.
And how can they do that?
You can find all his contact info on his website, financialguideposts.com.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks for breaking all this down.
Of course, it's important stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And for all of you listening, take this as a reminder to really think about your own retirement plans.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't hesitate to reach out to an expert like John White.
He can make sense of it all.
Exactly. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.